So, I got chosen to be the companion of this mute princess. Thought it'd be boring, right?
Wrong.
Turns out he's not mute. And he's not a princess either. Yeah, that's my life now. Totally normal, obviously. The mute princess was choosing a study companion, and my family sent me. To coax me into it, father deliberately stuffed my travel bag full of food. On the day of the test, the princess's personal maid, Shichua, asked, "Within books there are houses of gold." I replied, "Where? Do they have crispy roast suckling pig?" To everyone's surprise, the princess chose me. I asked why. Shichua said, "Her Highness says you're missing a few screws." Me? Later, I slept on the same bed as the princess. I asked, "What's this thing poking me?" The princess replied in a hoarse voice, "Shut up. The princess isn't mute, and the princess is a man."
1.
The mute princess was selecting a study companion. Our family only has one daughter, me. So naturally, I was sent to face the battlefield. Father and my 2 older brothers knew me inside out. "Mother, don't cry. With Renyuan's unruly temperament, there's no way she'll be chosen," said my eldest brother. "Big brother is absolutely right," said my second brother. "The princess is choosing a study companion, not a dining companion." "Mother, rest assured, Renyuan is terrible at that." "You're both right," father chimed in. "I stuffed your bundle full of food, candied fruits, preserves, roast goose legs. When you come back, father will take you to the newly opened restaurant for a huge pork knuckle." I was so excited I nearly jumped, but mother pulled me into her arms. "You heartless lot," she scolded. "It's not your flesh that's being sent off, so of course you don't care." She wiped her tears and said to me, "My precious girl, remember, act even more spoiled, even dumber, and even greedier. Mother will be waiting for you at home." Father wrapped an arm around mother's shoulders. "Sienna, don't worry. As long as Renyuan performs as she usually does, there's no way she'll be chosen. That's the royal princess's study companion, not just any stray cat or dog." I knew father and my brothers were just trying to comfort mother, but for some reason, I really wanted to step on them a couple of times. Rolling my eyes at them, I leaned into mother with a grin.
"Don't worry, Mom.
"Leave it to me. I'll definitely mess it up." And so, amid everyone's eager expectations, I boarded the carriage bound for the palace. The carriage hadn't even reached the end of the alley when father's voice rang out from behind. "Stop the carriage. Renyuan forgot her milk tea. The road is long. Don't let my good daughter get thirsty." "A long road? From our house to the palace, it's only half an hour by carriage." Mother's voice followed. "Didn't you say Renyuan wouldn't be chosen? Why are you crying now?" Then came the sound of the 2 of them bawling together. Their crying didn't stir much emotion in me, not because I'm heartless, but because I truly believed I wouldn't be chosen. If it all ended quickly, I might even make it home in time for dinner.
2.
We were all daughters of noble families in the capital, so of course we knew each other. For example, Chung Jiar, the legitimate granddaughter of official Chung, really looked down on me. She thought that as the daughter of a military general, compared to her refined aristocratic lineage, I was inevitably crude and reckless. I looked down on her too. The last time our families dined together, she ate only a few bites and then stopped, eating like a cat. What kind of future could that lead to? The 2 of us couldn't stand each other. We snorted coldly and rolled our eyes at one another. As we brushed past, she muttered to me, "A brute like you wants to compete with me?
Dream on."
The princess's study companion's spot can only be mine." I nodded at her in satisfaction. "Huh, so this one actually knows how to talk like a human." After knowing her for so long, that was the one sentence that truly spoke to my heart. When it came time for the talent showcase, everyone pulled out their best skills. Zither, chess, calligraphy, painting, pipa, yongqin, it was dazzling and jaw-dropping. Just as I was watching with great interest, I heard Shichua speak beside Princess Changle. Next is Cui General's daughter, Cui Renyuan. It was only after Chung Jiar shoved me that I snapped back to my senses and hurried forward to perform. I walked up to the drummer providing accompaniment, politely asked him to step aside, then gave the drum 2 loud papa strikes. After that, I bowed deeply toward the princess. My performance is complete. Shichue glanced toward the princess behind the gauze curtain. The princess made a hand gesture, and Shichue asked aloud, "May I ask what Miss Chui's performance represents?" I replied confidently and straightforwardly, beating the retreat drum. The whole hall burst into laughter. Mission accomplished. 3. Next came the assessment of our learning. Shichue would recite the first line of a poem, and we were to supply the second. There were at least a dozen, if not 20, noble girls participating. By the time everyone finished their talent performances, the sun was already high in the sky. I was so hungry my chest was practically stuck to my back, my soul barely holding together. The bundle of food father had packed for me had been confiscated by the palace matrons. At that moment, my mind was filled entirely with the massive pork knuckle father promised me later. I didn't even notice it was my turn again. Shichue called out loudly, "To live in peace one need not build lofty halls. Within books there are houses of gold." I subconsciously widened my eyes and exclaimed happily, "What? Where? Is there crispy roast suckling pig?" Another round of laughter erupted. I was starving but proud. At last, everything was over. All that remained was for Shichue to announce the result. I didn't care at all. After all, it wouldn't be me. I was busy thinking about how good the berry pudding my second brother made last time was, and how I wanted him to make it again when I heard Shichue announce, "Her Highness's study companion will be Cui Renyuan, daughter of General Cui. Miss Cui, please remain. The other young ladies will be escorted out of the palace." I clapped my hands and laughed. Who got chosen? Cui Renyuan? Ha 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 ha, she's so unlucky. Then it hit me, and my smile froze.
Wait, damn it.
Cui Renyuan is me. Chung Jiager glared at me resentfully. Cui Renyuan, what are you so smug about? Winning once doesn't mean you'll always win. You call this winning? I shot back. Here, take it. I'll give you this position. I'll give it to you, okay? Chung Jiager's beautiful almond-shaped eyes went wide. Cui Renyuan, stop pretending. Don't give me that sarcastic act. I practically hugged her leg. Sister Jar, you take it. Please. I really want to go home. Shichue forcibly pulled me up. I stretched my arm toward Chung Jar. Sister Jar, don't leave me here alone. When everyone else gradually departed, and Shichue said she would lead me to meet the princess, the last shred of hope in my heart finally died. Tears began to drip down, plop, plop. Whoa, help. I want to go home. I miss my parents. Father promised to take me to eat a huge pork knuckle.
4.
Choking back my sobs, I followed Shichue toward the princess. As we walked, I asked, "Annie Shichue, may I ask, why did Her Highness choose me?" Shichue smiled gently and said in a soft voice, "Her Highness says you're missing a few screws." Me? What kind of strange preference does this princess have? When I reached the princess, she slowly lifted the gauze curtain. Behind it was a face so beautiful it left me staring in shock. Fair skin, a high-bridged nose, deep brown eyes, and an air of noble elegance, as if an immortal had descended into the mortal world. It was just a pity that the princess was born unable to speak, a mute. All of a sudden, being the princess's study companion didn't seem so bad. Getting to look at such a beauty every day was pleasing enough to the eye. "Greetings, Your Highness." I had just been crying, and when I spoke, I couldn't control myself. A snot bubble popped out. The princess covered her nose in disgust, then stood up and, with Shichue's support, turned and left. Since she disliked me so much, why keep me in the palace at all? Oh, that just made me feel even worse.
5.
I was assigned to a side hall of Changle Palace. The princess did not summon me that day. Honestly, I didn't understand it at all. The princess is mute. What kind of study companion does she need? Shouldn't she need someone to read for her instead? I'm the daughter of a military general. To be blunt, I don't even recognize all the characters. Forcing me to stay on as a study companion, did the princess get kicked in the head by a donkey? That night, I tossed and turned in bed. Missing home was secondary. The main issue was that the food in Changle Palace was absolutely terrible. I ate alone in the side hall. Every dish was just a tiny portion, supposedly to maintain one's figure. I could barely stay alive without eating my fill, and they still talked about maintaining a figure? The hunger clawed at my insides, every organ aching. I rolled out of bed, found some convenient clothes, and snuck into the small kitchen under cover of darkness. Luckily, the palace maid assigned to me was asleep. Otherwise, I'd never have gotten away. Food is the foundation of life. I love eating, and I love cooking too. I rolled up my sleeves and started clanging and banging. There were plenty of ingredients in the small kitchen, but I was too hungry to bother with anything fancy. I made the simplest clear noodle soup, topped with blanched greens and some braised beef prepared by the imperial kitchen. Just as I lifted the noodles, a chill suddenly ran down my spine. I didn't care. With food right in front of me, even if there was a ghost, I'd deal with her after I had the strength. Before I could take another bite, I heard the sound of a ladle knocking against the table behind me. When you're hungry, your brain doesn't work very well. On top of that, I'd heard some eerie rumors about the palace before entering. I really thought it was a ghost. So I quietly grabbed the big ladle beside me and, with lightning speed, whipped around and swung it. Good news. I hit something. Bad news. I hit the princess. I suddenly felt very grateful that the princess was mute. If she had screamed, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Oh my, Your Highness. I immediately lunged forward and pulled the princess into my arms, then promptly got knocked over by her. Good grief. She doesn't look heavy, but she's surprisingly solid. 6. After quite a while, the princess slowly opened her eyes. I was so anxious, I almost wanted to pry her eyelids open with my hands. After all, if the noodles soaked any longer, they'd get mushy. Once she woke up, she looked at me questioningly, asking what had happened. I immediately replied with the explanation I'd already prepared. Well, Your Highness, it's like this. You accidentally fell just now. I was the one who helped you up, so you didn't end up damaging that beautiful face of yours. Her lovely face was filled with disbelief. She raised a hand to touch the spot I'd just hit, her brows knitting tightly. I laughed awkwardly. If I said you fell onto a big ladle, would you believe me? Her gaze turned icy. I knew she didn't. Serving a ruler is like serving a tiger. I immediately begged for mercy. Please forgive me, Your Highness. I truly didn't know it was you. HM? That look in her eyes. Why does it seem like she wants to eat me?
That can't be right.
She pointed behind me, and I heard her stomach growl. She wanted that bowl of noodles. This palace really is awful. Not only can I eat my fill, even the princess herself can't eat properly. After the two of us shared a bowl of noodles, I noticed the princess's attitude toward me softened a little. After all, my cooking skills really are top-notch. She even made a series of gestures. A beauty is pleasing to watch in every movement. I got a little lost staring. She grew impatient and pushed me rather roughly. Why are you pushing me? I asked. She pointed at me, then at her eyes. This time I understood. She was asking whether I understood what she'd meant. I answered very honestly, nope. Didn't get it. The princess gave in and summoned Shichua. Shichua yawned as she translated. Her Highness says that from now on, don't eat alone. Whatever you make, call her too. Wait, aren't I a study companion? How did I end up as a dining companion instead?
8.
In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed since I entered the palace. During that time, father and mother sent quite a few things over, but they weren't allowed to come in to see me. The princess was shocked and had Shichua translate for her. Do your parents think you've been sent into exile or something? You're entering the palace, not prison. What's with all this stuff? Looking at the endless stream of food being delivered into Changle Palace, roast goose, suckling pig, milk tea, crispy pastries, preserved fruits, all of them my favorites. My emotions finally broke down completely when I saw the huge pork knuckle father had bought for me. I ran back into the hall, threw myself onto the bed, and burst into tears. Before I'd cried for long, a beautiful hand held out a handkerchief to me. The princess patted my shoulder, offering a simple bit of comfort. I turned and dove straight into her arms. After spending all this time together, I'd wanted to do that for ages. A soft, fragrant, gentle big sister. Who wouldn't love that? Her chest was soft too, and my mood instantly improved. She, however, clearly wasn't used to physical contact. Her body stiffened noticeably. I didn't care. Hug more, and she'd get used to it. She stroked my head and looked at me with concern, gesturing with her hands. I roughly understood what she meant. With tears still hanging on my face, I looked at her and said, I do miss home a bit. I miss my parents. But more importantly, Father brought me a pork knuckle, and it got cold. It's not as good as when it's fresh out of the pot. She rolled her eyes, then disguised herself, and took me out of the palace to Fan Tower to eat freshly made pork knuckle. I was so excited I jumped 3 feet into the air, wrapped my arms around her neck, and planted a kiss on her face. Me and your highness are the best in the whole world. The rims of her ears turned slightly red, and she froze on the spot. It looked like she'd never been this close to anyone before. Seems like we should get closer more often. With that thought, I kissed her again. So comfy. Soft and fragrant. Soft and fragrant.
9.
But with a face like her highness's, it was impossible to hide completely. Even in disguise, you could still tell she was a drop-dead beauty. Suddenly, inspiration struck. Your highness, what if we dress as men instead? Changle immediately grew agitated, flicking her sleeve and putting on a cold expression, as if to say, I'm a princess. Dressing as a man. How improper. But she couldn't withstand my constant pestering. In the end, she agreed and bound her chest, dressing as a man. When she stepped out in her new outfit, I was stunned. With women's makeup, she was a celestial fairy. Dressed as a man, she was a bright, handsome young gentleman full of vigor. I couldn't resist giving her backside a quick squeeze and whispering shamelessly in her ear, Your Highness, you're so handsome. Changle's cheeks flushed red. She raised her hand and lightly tapped my forehead. Pouting, she looked like she was saying, You little girl, you really have no decorum. I kept grinning at her. If your highness were a man, I'm afraid you'd steal away this young lady's heart. As I spoke, I took both her hands and pressed them against my chest. Changle looked like she was about to steam from the heat. She yanked her hands back and hurried forward. I laughed and waved after her. Young master, wait for me, young master.
10.
When we arrived at Fan Tower, I skillfully called for the manager and had him lead us to a private room upstairs. Changle raised an eyebrow at me. I immediately understood and replied, I come here so often. I've become a VIP. While waiting for the dishes, she watched the Huchuan dance being performed downstairs. I propped my chin up and watched her instead. What a truly magnificent face. Sensing my gaze, she grew a little uncomfortable, raised a fist to her mouth, and coughed lightly. After spending these days together, I'd figured out Changle's temperament and knew exactly when I could tease her. So I suddenly stood up and leaned in close. Changle looked utterly startled, her long, curled eyelashes fluttering like butterfly wings. Your Highness, I whispered, once you've seen a man as handsome and valiant as you, how is this young lady ever supposed to marry anyone else? Changle blushed and stepped back. She retreated, I advanced, until she had nowhere left to go, and then her gaze dropped to my lips. In that split second, my heart skipped. Something felt very wrong. So I obediently returned to my seat. The food here suited my tastes perfectly, but it didn't seem to suit Changle's. With my left hand, I scooped pork knuckle over rice. With my right, I held a honey-glazed roast goose leg. With an oil-smeared mouth, I asked, What's wrong? Not to your highness's liking? Changle glanced at the table, pursed her lips, and shook her head, then blinked at me. I got it. She was saying that Fan Tower's food wasn't as good as what I cooked. Flattery. Shameless, blatant flattery. trying to get me to cook more for her. But then again, when someone this handsome tells you your cooking is unbeatable, how could you possibly refuse to cook for her? Fine then. That night, after returning to the palace, I made Changle my specialty sweet rice wine dumplings. She drank happily and leaned against me.
All right.
Now I was happy too. 11. In the blink of an eye, the year's end arrived. After my tireless efforts at feeding her, Changle had gained a little weight, and I was very satisfied. Before, she looked so frail and delicate it made people ache just looking at her. Now it was much better. She finally had a bit of flesh on her bones. But why did she seem to be growing taller too? She used to be only half a head taller than me. Now it felt like she was nearly a head and a half taller. Was I the one not eating enough? Shichua snatched the preserved fruits from my hand. Stop eating already. You won't be able to eat the New Year's Eve dinner later. I smiled and coquettishly said to her, Auntie, don't you know my capacity by now? Shichua poked my forehead. You little girl, always eating. Look at you, how many pounds have you gained since you arrived? Those who know say your study companion. Those who don't would think you came to Changle Palace just to freeload meals. I pretended to be angry and ignored her, while actually lowering my head and sneaking bites of the candied dates hidden in my sleeve.
12.
That evening, Changle slipped back early from the palace banquet and joined us in making hot pot together, lively and noisy. After drinking a bit of wine, I laughed and scooted closer to Changle, tilting my head and holding out my hand to ask her for a New Year's red envelope. Changle smiled too, and handed them out to each of us in turn. The whole scene was warm, joyful, and brimming with festivity. After that, we went out together to set off fireworks. The crackling explosions were so loud they made my ears hurt. Changle covered my ears with her hands, and I shrank completely into her arms. I lifted my face to look at her. The warmth of her body mixed with the scent of fireworks, forming a memory of smell that belonged only to me. After the excitement died down, the young girls scattered in small groups, some cutting paper decorations, others playing cards, dispersing like startled birds. Changle went to her mother consort's memorial tablet to burn incense and keep vigil. That left only me, sitting alone in the empty courtyard of Changle Palace. I warmed a pot of clear wine as snowflakes suddenly began to fall from the sky. In truth, the feeling of homesickness had been spreading in my heart since morning. This was my first New Year spent away from home. Father, mother, and my brothers must surely miss me terribly. I'd been holding it in all day, afraid of dampening everyone else's mood. Now that I was alone, the longing flooded over me all at once. Afraid someone might notice, I sobbed softly under my breath. I hadn't cried long when I heard footsteps behind me. I hurriedly wiped away my tears and turned around, only to find it was Changle. Strangely enough, the moment I saw her, all my restraint collapsed. I burst into loud, uninhibited sobs. 13. Changle looked heartbroken for me, her beautiful brows drawn tightly together. I didn't care about anything else and threw myself into her arms, smearing tears and snot all over her outer robe. Changle, who is usually so fastidious, didn't push me away. Instead, she held me even tighter. Your Highness, I really miss my parents and my brothers. I don't know how they're doing. Your Highness, don't be sad. Just because I like them doesn't mean I don't like you. I really, really like you, Your Highness. I just miss home a little. At that point, I even hiccuped through my tears. Changle was amused despite herself and used a handkerchief to wipe my tears away. She looked at me gently, then somehow produced a red envelope from who knows where. I touched it. It was much thicker than the one from earlier. This one's just for me? Asked, crying and laughing at the same time. Changle nodded, coaxing me like a child. I couldn't help myself and threw myself into her arms again, crying my heart out. After all that fussing, it had already passed midnight. I felt deeply tired and a little drunk, my eyelids barely staying open, yet I still clung to Changle's hand, unwilling to let go. Changle called someone to help me wash up and move me to the side hall to rest. But I grabbed her hand and absolutely refused to release it. In a moment of desperation, I dropped to my knees, hugged her leg, and wailed, "I want to sleep with your highness. I don't want to be separated from your highness." Left with no other choice, Changle lifted me up in her arms and slowly carried me back to the main hall. Seeing how drowsy I was, she didn't summon anyone to attend me. She placed me on the bed, then went to bathe and change. The next morning, I was awakened by the sound of someone sharply sucking in a breath. When I opened my eyes, I saw panic written all over Changle's face. I couldn't help but marvel. Beauty really is beauty. Even just waking up, she looked stunning. Before I could say anything, she swiftly grabbed the blanket and threw it over me, her face red as she lowered her head and refused to look at me. Only then did I realize that in the middle of the night, feeling uncomfortable, I must have unknowingly taken off my inner robe. Now my upper body was covered by nothing but a belly band. I couldn't help finding it funny. We're both girls. What's there to be shy about? I stretched out my arm and pushed the blanket aside. Sitting up, I looked at Changle and said, "Your Highness, I'm really curious. We eat more or less the same food every day, so how is it that you're all full and shapely while I'm just a tiny little hill?" Seeing Changle's face turn so red it looked like it might drip blood, I found it even more amusing and wanted to tease her further. So I reached out and lightly squeezed her chest twice. "This feels way too good." Then I naturally took her hand and placed it on my own chest. "Your Highness, look, isn't the difference huge?" Changle looked as if she'd been struck by lightning. She yanked her hand back in a panic and then angrily chased me out of the main hall. I was completely baffled. It's something everyone has. What's there to be embarrassed about? 14. By the Emperor's grace, in the spring of my 3rd year in the palace, my mother was finally permitted to enter and see me. When Mother arrived, she brought bags and bundles with her and looked at me with eyes full of affection. Our Yuan has gotten thinner, taller, and more beautiful. With tears in my eyes, I looked at her. "Your Highness has someone send my portrait home every 2 months. How can Mother still find me unfamiliar?" Mother clasped my hand tightly. "How could a painting compare to the real person? My good Yuan, have things been well for you in the palace?" I nodded quickly. "Your Highness treats me extremely well. Mother, please tell Father and the others to put their minds at ease. Your father and brothers are doing well too. They just miss you very much." At last, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I collapsed into Mother's arms and cried loudly. Mother held me just as tightly, crying as though her heart were being torn apart. When Mother left, Changle specially accompanied me to see her off at the palace gate. Strictly speaking, this went against court etiquette. But Changle did it anyway, and even respectfully performed a junior's bow to my mother. Mother tried to kneel in return, but Changle stopped her. Changle gestured for a while, and I relayed her words to Mother. "Her Highness says, 'Thank you, Madam, for allowing Yuan to enter the palace and keep her company.' Without Yuan, she would have had not a single moment of joy." Mother was deeply grateful and gave Changle a protective talisman she had prayed for at a temple. I covered my mouth and laughed quietly. Mother had just whispered to me that she had originally prayed for 2 talismans. She said that if Changle treated me well, she'd give her the other one. If not, once we left the palace, she'd throw it away. 15. After my mother left, I noticed that Changle seemed rather downcast. I leaned closer and asked her why. She let out a long sigh and made a couple of gestures in the air. I immediately nestled up to her. "Your Highness, it's not your fault. Even though I'm away from home, you've treated me extremely well. I did feel a bit resentful at the beginning, but now there isn't even the slightest bit left." Changle stroked my head in relief. Yet this scene instead stirred up my own sadness. Changle blinked at me, asking what was wrong. After taking a deep breath, I said, "Just now my mother told me that they've arranged a marriage for me outside the palace. The eldest legitimate son of Minister Li, about my age. They're thinking of first setting the engagement, then, after I leave the palace in a few years, we can marry." I didn't notice Changle's body stiffen as I continued talking to myself. "But when I think about leaving Your Highness, my heart feels really uncomfortable." Changle didn't respond for a long time. I looked at her and found her gaze oddly cold. Your Highness? I called. Only then did she react, looking at me and asking, do you want to marry Minister Li's son? Mother had brought Li Sheng's portrait for me to see. Though he wasn't as handsome as Your Highness, he was still a bright, upright young man with a good bearing. On top of that, he was my eldest brother's close friend, and both families knew each other well. He was surely a man of good character. If we got along, what would be wrong with marrying him? Besides, Mother said that Minister Li's wife liked me very much and promised that if, after I left the palace, I found that Li Sheng and I were incompatible, the engagement could be broken off unconditionally. With such a marriage that even had a way out, what reason did I have to refuse? But for some reason, after I finished saying all that, Changle remained gloomy all day. No matter how I tried to cheer her up, it didn't work. That beautiful face of hers didn't show a single smile. That night, I carried my pillow to the main hall. Over the years, I'd often wanted to sleep with Changle, but she'd refused many times. Seeing her unhappy, I wanted to coax her properly in bed. I thought she would reject me again, but to my surprise, she agreed. Grinning, I climbed onto the bed with my pillow, only to be pulled straight into her arms.
Huh?
Had she been swapped with someone else? Why was she so proactive today? Normally, she wouldn't even let me touch her, so why was she holding me so tightly now? She didn't speak, only tightened her embrace, resting her chin on the top of my head. Surrounded by her warmth and breathing in her pleasant scent, I soon fell into a deep sleep.
16.
I woke in the morning because something was pressing uncomfortably against me. Still groggy, I opened my eyes and met the princess's beautiful gaze, yet there was an emotion in it I couldn't read. Dazed, I asked, Your Highness, why is there something underneath poking me? Changle's voice was hoarse. Shut up. All my sleepiness vanished instantly. She isn't mute? And why does her voice sound so rough? I flipped over and sat up, pinching her face and examining it from every angle. Only after confirming it really was Changle did I dare to speak carefully. Your Highness, aren't you mute? She propped her cheek on one hand. Who told you that I was mute? Now I was even more panicked. Based on all my years of experience, this voice definitely didn't belong to a woman. Kneeling to the side, I weakly asked, Then why do you sound like this? Did you hurt your throat? She suddenly leaned in, gripping my chin and forcing me to meet her gaze. Who said I was a woman?
Oh.
Oh, Changle is a man. That explains the voice.
Wait. What?
Changle is a man? I immediately lay back down and pulled the blanket over myself. Your Highness, I must not be fully awake, or I got up the wrong way. Let me sleep again. Changle leaned close to my ear and whispered like a demon, You're not dreaming. I am a man. I bolted out of the main hall in one breath. Father, Mother, please come save me. 17. That very noon, Changle had the imperial kitchen prepare an entire table of delicacies. There were my beloved pork knuckle, roast lamb leg, beggar's chicken, lotus duck, and even sweet rice wine dumplings, red date milk tea. He had me completely figured out. All kinds of pastries, fresh fruits, and cured meats, one dish after another, dazzling and delicious. Shichue came to summon me, and I flatly refused. I'll just cook myself a bowl of noodles. Shichue didn't force me. She simply stood there and listened as I rattled off dish names. The willing bait principle, hook, line, and sinker, I was successfully reeled in. Changle sat at the table. When I arrived, he dismissed everyone else, then poured a cup of milk tea and slid it toward me. I had to admit, now that I knew he was a man, I truly felt the heavens were unfair. How could someone look like a celestial fairy in women's clothes, yet be devastatingly handsome in men's attire? Even though looking at that handsome face put me in a decent mood, I was still angry inside. I felt he had deceived me. He hadn't treated me as one of his own. So I sulked to the side and said coldly, Your Highness is of noble status. I'm not worthy to share a table with you. Changle set down his cup. We've been eating together for years, and now you say this to me? He was the one who'd done wrong, so why was he the one acting tough? Before, I thought your highness was a princess, so there were no boundaries. Now that your highness is a prince, proper limits should be drawn. He seemed somewhat helpless. It's not that I wanted to hide it from you. Very few people inside or outside the court know that I'm male. The court? Suddenly I thought, does His Majesty know? If the Emperor didn't know, that would be deceiving the throne, a capital crime. Even if he were of imperial blood, it would likely mean death spared but punishment unavoidable. Thinking of this, I grabbed Changle's wrist in worry. Does His Majesty know that you're actually a prince? So, what if he knows? And what if he doesn't? At a moment like this, he still had the leisure to toy with me? Growing impatient, I snapped. If he knows, then fine. It's just a palace secret, not something worth losing your head over. But if he doesn't? If he doesn't? He prompted. Already upset, and with him teasing me like this, I shouted, if he doesn't, then hurry up and figure out an escape route. Do you really want to die here? Changle looked at me, his eyes bright. You'd be willing to bear the crime of deceiving the throne for my sake? At his words, a surge of grievance rose in my chest. I'd been kept in the dark for so many years, and now I was going to be dragged into this with him. Thinking about it made me want to punch him, but I couldn't possibly just watch him fall into disaster. Wiping my tears, I said, if you truly deceive the throne, I'll first announce to the world that I've severed ties with the Cui family, then find a way to save you. Perhaps seeing me cry made Changle panic. He reached into his pocket and took out a golden hairpin adorned with a ruby. This was a tribute from the Xianbei. I thought it suited you, so I asked Father Emperor to reward it to me. Taking the hairpin, my mood immediately improved. After hiccuping from crying, I continued, Your Highness, did you deceive the throne or not?
18.
Changle looked at me, his voice gentle. My name is Zhen'an, courtesy named Changle. I am Father Emperor's seventh son. Zhen'an's mother was Xianbei. Though she was of a different ethnicity, the Emperor adored her immensely. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say she was the love of his life. When Consort Ro, Zhen'an's mother, was pregnant, the court diviner had foretold, if the child were a boy, the empire's fortune would be imperiled. If a girl, the empire would flourish. Coincidentally, the child in her womb was this prince. The emperor couldn't bring himself to kill him, nor did he want to break Consort Ro's heart. So the diviner proposed raising him as a princess, to hide him from heaven. If he reached adulthood and the empire's fortune remained stable, they could announce the death of Princess Changle and bring him back as a prince. For fear that his identity might be revealed, Princess Changle lost her voice due to an accident around age 10. I didn't intend to have a study companion, but all the other princesses did. Father feared exposure, so he waited until I was this age to reluctantly find me one. I nodded. No wonder Shichua said you chose me because I was missing a screw. So it was really to prevent your secret that you're a man from being exposed. Zhen'an wore a proud expression. I've hidden it so well. Only Shichua and the few close attendants know this secret. It was also because he feared growing too fast and revealing the truth that the meals in Changle Palace were so terrible. Yet the emperor, seeing that the empire remained unaffected over the years, quietly permitted my antics in the small kitchen. But I asked, Your Highness, you're not yet of full age. Why tell me now? If I didn't tell you, you might run off with someone else. I wasn't willing to take that risk. His voice was so soft I didn't catch it the first time, so I asked again.
What?
Zhen'an tilted his head. Nothing. You'll understand in a few days. 19. Now that I understood the full story, my anxious heart finally settled. All right. I exhaled deeply. Since that's the case, Your Highness, please let me return home. Return home?
Why?
Your Highness is male, I am female, proper boundaries must be maintained. He suddenly grinned mischievously and stepped closer. Haven't we already shared enough intimate moments? My mind flashed through all the times we'd been close over the years, most of them initiated by me. I froze in place, as if struck by lightning, my face burning red. Then why didn't you refuse me? I stammered. I didn't know you were male, but you did. Zhen'an replied matter-of-factly. At first, you were too enthusiastic. I couldn't refuse. Later, I simply didn't want to. Why didn't you want to refuse? For some reason, hearing me say this made his ears turn red. No reason is needed when you don't want to refuse. I snorted. I don't care. Go beg His Majesty to let me return home. He raised an eyebrow. Return home for what? Do you intend to marry that Li boy? Why did he suddenly bring that up? But at this point, I had no choice but to grit my teeth and continue. And if I do, what of it? Zhen'an froze, then lightly pinched my shoulders. Why would you agree to marry him? You've never even met him. I looked at him, my eyes welling up. At least he didn't lie to me. Hearing this, Zhen'an lowered his arms. I knew he wasn't doing it on purpose. He couldn't fully confess to me, yet after all these years of being kept in the dark, I felt like a clown. Watching his lonely figure, a pang tugged at my heart. Living as a woman when he was truly a man pretending to be mute for 10 years, he must have suffered too. Just as I was about to comfort him, I heard his slightly pleading voice. At least stay with me for my birthday.
20.
On Zhen'an's birthday, as every year, I woke early to prepare him longevity noodles. He looked at me carefully. Cui Renyuan, are you still upset? Upset? Not really. I understood his difficult circumstances. But I also knew that now that I knew his secret, I could no longer continue living in Changle Palace. It wasn't anger, it was more of a reluctance to leave. I handed him the birthday gift I had prepared, a golden longevity lock. This was originally for children, I explained, but this birthday is different for you. After this day, Your Highness will begin a new chapter. I give you this longevity lock, wishing you 100 years free of worries. Zhen'an held my hand. I only wish to be like the swallows on a beam with you, meeting every year. Those words, so close to a confession, left me flustered. I quickly avoided his gaze. Your Highness, I am already betrothed to Li Sheng. Zhen'an shook his head. You haven't returned home. That doesn't count. How can a parental arrangement be invalid? He pouted like a child. I said it doesn't count. So it doesn't. That night, I stood with Zhen'an in Changle Palace, watching fireworks he set off. Happy birthday, Your Highness, I said. I watched the fireworks, yet I could feel Zhen'an's gaze fixed entirely on me. Cui Renyuan, do birthday wishes become more effective? I nodded. Naturally. He smiled brightly, clearly satisfied with my answer. What did Your Highness wish for? I asked. I already said, he replied. I lowered my gaze. Like the swallows on a beam, meeting every year. 21. The day after Zhen'an's birthday, I returned home carrying a pile of gifts. The emperor even granted me the title of Princess Yongning, rewarding my services as a study companion. Along with me came an imperial edict arranging the marriage of Li Shongshu's son, Li Sheng, to the eldest daughter of Minister Song. I knew Zhen'an had orchestrated this. Fortunately, I had no feelings for Li Sheng, so I wasn't too upset. Yet I felt conflicted. I truly couldn't figure out my own feelings for Zhen'an. On the third day back home, it was my first little niece's full-month celebration. My eldest brother had married Cheng Jia's elder sister, so I once again met my little rival. By now, she was already betrothed to young General Xiao Zhao, with the wedding set for October this year. Feeling like she had beaten me to it, she boasted arrogantly. Cui Renyuan, you'd better hurry. I heard you were going to be betrothed to that Li Sheng boy, but the emperor has already arranged it for him. You've wasted your years in the palace. If you don't hurry, you'll truly end up an old maid who can't marry. I didn't notice when my eldest brother appeared. Our Cui family affairs don't need the Chen girl's concern. Even if my sister never marries, I can provide for her my whole life. Faced with my brother, Cheng Jia had no argument and left in a huff. I looked at my brother with gratitude. Family love had always been my greatest support. Why do you seem so troubled since returning from the palace? My brother asked. I shrugged casually. Nothing. Just a bit tired after these years. He tapped my forehead. Do you think I haven't noticed anything about you all your life? Tell me, Is there someone you like? I widened my eyes. No, brother. Can you read minds now? No, he's not the person I like. You've been restless, always looking toward the palace, pining like a lovesick girl who can't eat, who at home wouldn't notice. I blushed and smiled. Is it really that obvious? Tell me, who do you like? A guard? A minister? Or a prince? I shook my head vigorously like a little rattle. My brother's expression grew serious. Don't tell me it's His Majesty? That's impossible. He probed further. Could it be a eunuch? For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. Brother, stop guessing. I can't reveal this person's identity yet. When the time is right, I will tell you. I certainly couldn't tell him the one I longed for was actually Princess Changle. 22. Not long after, news came that Princess Changle was gravely ill. To make it appear legitimate, I had father petition the emperor to allow me into the palace to visit Changle. His Majesty approved. After a month, I saw Zhen'an again. To my surprise, he was dressed fully in male attire and immediately held me tightly in his arms. In a coquettish tone, he murmured, "Only a month, yet it feels like several years have passed." I pushed against his chest. "Your Highness, proper boundaries must be maintained between men and women." Cui Renyuan, his voice sounded fragile. "Are you still upset with me?" "I'm not upset," I said. "I just don't understand." "Don't understand what?" he asked. "Why I always find myself worrying about you." Suddenly, he smiled. "What's there to not understand? You care for me." Pining and caring. Is that what it means to care for someone? He asked earnestly. "If I asked you to spend the rest of your life with me, would you?" I nodded, though my words were hesitant. After all these years, it feels unnatural to be with anyone else. Then what if I spent the rest of my life with another woman? I placed my hand over my heart. It ached, my eyes stung, and a few tears threatened to fall. "Is this what caring means?" I asked. Zhen'an held my hand. "Cui Renyuan, I care for you. You brought a ray of light into my dark life. Before you, I was always suffering, twisted, and unsure if my existence had any meaning. You healed me, warmed me, and showed me that everything in this world has its destined path." His words made me happy. I leaned closer and asked, "Then why did you have to dress as a woman all these years?" He looked calm and resolute. "It was to meet you." I frowned, pouting. "Then what about all the lies these past years?" He immediately held up 3 fingers an oath. "I vow to make it right for the rest of my life. If I break this promise, may heaven strike me." I quickly covered his mouth. "You finally get to speak, and you say such dramatic things?" Zhen'an smiled ingratiatingly. "Still my lady cares for me." 23. 1 month after Princess Changle's death, the emperor announced to the court that the 7th prince, who had been at the monastery praying for the nation, had returned. Due to his merits in prayer, he was granted the title Prince Yong'an. Hearing this title, I couldn't help but think of my own, Princess Yongning. Zhen'an patted my head. "Cui Renyuan, you're clever." Indeed, I asked father to grant it. Yongning and Yong'an, doesn't that sound perfectly matched? Half a month later, the imperial edict for our marriage arrived at the Cui residence. It is heard that Princess Yongning Cui Renyuan is gentle, graceful, virtuous, and pure in character. I am most pleased. Since Cui Renyuan is of marriageable age, and Prince Yong'an is fated to be her match, the two shall be wed as husband and wife. Henceforth, she shall be the princess consort of Prince Yong'an. My second brother flipped the edict over and over. These words, are they really describing Cui Renyuan? They didn't make a mistake? My eldest brother kicked him. "Didn't you see how mother and father were crying? You heartless little brat." My second brother rubbed his backside. "The prince's mansion is right across from our house. Why are they crying? Perhaps thinking of our little sister." Even my eldest brother wiped away a tear. "You'll understand when you're a father." Epilogue
1.
After our marriage, Zhen'an entrusted me with managing all domestic affairs. He spoke with a tinge of apology. "Cui Renyuan, this is all I have for now. If it isn't enough, I'll earn more military merits in the future, and we can expand our holdings." Looking at the row of shops, dozens of estates, and countless silver notes, my eyes nearly went wide. Why didn't you tell me the family was yours? I wouldn't have been so greedy for those pork knuckles. He hugged me, laughing. Afterwards, all the knuckles are yours, my lady. Well, I still need to make money. Haha, am I a rich lady now?
He winked.
Father said there's more, just not convenient to give it all at once. Ah, such overwhelming wealth. Bring it on.
2.
One day after our marriage, I suddenly realized that the chest I used to fondle, soft and yielding, was now hard and muscular. I asked him how he did it. He leaned close to my ear.
Xic medit.
Using sheep or pig bladders, filled with pig trotters to make a gelatin, then shaped and fixed with a special solution, sized perfectly to wear. A light bulb went off in my head. Make me one too, would look stylish under clothing. Zhen'an raised his hand to stop me. No need, my lady. I'd be afraid to touch it and break it. I still wanted a pair to play with, not noticing his expression changing. While I wasn't paying attention, he suddenly lifted me horizontally. I struggled. In broad daylight, in this wide world, Zhen'an.
How dare you?
He kissed my cheek. My lady, the more you struggle, the more excited I get. I sighed. The past was past. Now he's just a pervert.
The end.